Down Vishnu Patnaman. No one to fall dandavats, please. Ask the Taras of the Śrīmad Divine Message of Bhaktivedanta Swami to the Prabhupada. Ananta Koti Vaishnava. ISKCON Founder-Acharya Vishnu Prabhupada. Friends of all Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Shiva Sari Gaur Bhaktivedanta. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Bhavapina, Shamakanda Radhakanda, Giri Govardhana, Sri Vrindavinda, Sri Navadita Dham, Ganga Mai ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Rasti Devi ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivedanta jai, all glories to Samaveda, all glories to Samaveda, all glories to Samaveda, all glories to Sri Guru. Among the Prabhupada, Krishna described the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Namaste Saraswati Devi, sometimes when I give Bhagavatam class for 2 days in a row, I start the second class by saying, now I'm going to ask you a very difficult question. And that very difficult question is, does anyone remember anything from yesterday's class? But now I'll ask you not a difficult question because it's not a whole day. Does anyone remember anything from this morning's talk? Raise your hands if you remember something. Oh wow. I can't resist calling on Gopal. Gopal, boliye.
Daruda dropped nectar in the tree because he knew that Krishna was going to climb the tree to
Oh, very good. Huh? It's a secret. You have to. When you're qualified, you will understand everything. Who else remember something? Yes? Did you raise your hand? You moved your hand, though. I saw it. You have to be very careful with it these times. Yes, what do you remember?
Me?
Yes. No, not me. You.
Lila about Kaliya.
Okay. Tell me something that you remember about it.
Yes, so Kaliya had poisoned the lake.
Yes.
And then the gopas went and cows went, they drank the water.
You remember so much. And then what happened?
And then Krishna got angry. He climbed a tree and from the tree jumped on Kaliya's head.
Yes.
And then...
No, he didn't jump on Kaliya's head first.
Okay.
Where did he jump?
I thought he was on the tree. Okay, first he went into the lake.
Yes, into the lake.
And then...
He began moving his arms
Right,
around.
right.
And Kaliya? Yes.
Kaliya stabbed Lord Krishna on the chest.
Not stabbed, but
Bit.
bit. Yes. Yes. What's the difference between stabbed and bit?
Stabbed maybe like a knife.
Yes, and bit
But
with
he had his fangs to stab.
It's true, I hadn't thought of it like that. Yes. So he stabbed him with his fangs. And then he enwrapped Krishna with his coils. Do you remember anything? Yes. Yeah. His compassionate tears brought the boys back to life. Yes. Do you remember something?
Around the same way, Krishna can do anything. If he can do anything because his tears brought back his friends from death.
The tears were born out of his compassionate heart. And actually our acharyas say that Krishna cannot tolerate the suffering of any living entity. And that could lead us to a question. If Krishna cannot tolerate the suffering of any living entity, then
Why did he kill demons?
be quiet. This is a deeper question that we're asking now. Who can answer that question? Yes.
Then why are we here?
Yes, yes, but what's the answer?
We still don't want to.
We still don't?
Don't want to go to the spiritual world.
Yeah.
Have material attachments.
Because how this point really fits in with the pastime that we're hearing is that Kaliya, he saw beautiful Krishna, Prakshaniya, who was so attractive, who was Sukumara, who was so delicate, who had such a beautiful smile, and Krishna was just smiling. And how did Kaliya react to that? He bit him. He was angry and he was ferociously angry at him. He bit Krishna. So when I was speaking that, I was thinking, now I understand why I cannot be in the spiritual world now. Because even though everything will be wonderful there and Krishna is there and so beautiful and the great devotees are so wonderful, but unless the consciousness is correct, then one will see it in the wrong way and one will become angry. And then one will bite Krishna or stab him with his fangs. So it's a matter of having one's consciousness correct, and then wherever we are, we'll be in the spiritual world. Vishva Purna Sukhayate. Even if we're in the material world, if our consciousness is correct, we will be in the spiritual world. That means in relationship with Krishna. That's the difference between the material world and the spiritual world. In the material world, if one has a material mind, one sees everything as if one is in the center. And in the spiritual world, even in the material world, in the spiritual consciousness, one sees Krishna. Hare, my oldest friend, who's not old. So happy to see you, Sukhdev. Here's Vasi. So then one can ask another question. Why doesn't just Krishna change everyone's consciousness so that they see everything in relationship to Krishna? And so I don't have to do any work, and I don't have to, and I don't have to chant properly. Why doesn't he just do everything? It's a great plan. And actually, the answer is what? We don't want him to. Okay, that's a good answer.
There's no love without independence.
A little louder, please.
There's no love without independence.
Yes, but yes, all correct. But what? Who's a mind reader and can guess exactly what I'm thinking? This one you won't guess. It's too. You won't. Believe me, you won't. Why doesn't Krishna just do everything? Yes, yes, you got it. You did, but it wasn't a guess. It was knowledge. Yes.
He's already doing everything.
He is, and he is the one who will do everything, but we still have to do our little part. Not have to. But why would he, unless we show some interest in developing our love for Krishna? If we take our step or steps to Krishna, if we exhibit some sincerity, again it comes to that word, sincerity, that's so hard to define. What is sincerity? Raise your hand if you can tell me what sincerity means without saying the opposite of insincerity. What does sincerity mean? How do you? I always ask this question. I can never remember. How do you say sincerity in Hindi? We're going to start a political revolution here. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. What's the Hindi word for sincerity? Maybe everyone who speaks Hindi is so sincere they don't even need to say it. What is it? Now everyone's some.
They don't have a word.
Obviously, they do have a word though. What's the Hindi word for sincerity? Gopavindesh.
I don't even know.
How about in Malayalam? Okay. Anyway, what's the opposite of sincerity? Oh, yes, without saying insincerity. It's very hard to define without saying it's insincerity or it's the lack of hypocrisy, the lack of duplicity. It means sincere, trying your best. And that's what is required. If we want to learn to love Krishna, we want to, that's really what's in our power, the sincere desire and the sincere attempt. The sincere desire and the sincere attempt. Consistently, because not that Krishna really says this, but it seems like he does. We say, I really sincerely want to serve you. And Krishna says, really? Let's see. Let's see what you really want, because if you really want to serve Krishna, you have to completely, fully want that. Anyabilasita sanyam janakamangavita anakalena Krishna anashilinam bhakti uttama. This is bhakti. To do some service. And it can be the simplest of service, depending upon what we're supposed to do. But it should be done with a sincere desire to please Krishna. To have the heart consciousness aligned with the activity. Chesta-rupa and bhava-rupa. The activity and the mood in which the activity is done. And that defines everything, is the desire. The sincere desire to please Krishna. Keshav, I thought this was a no barking zone. Okay, this is the first time I've ever heard. What's the dog's name again?
It's Bronte.
Huh?
Different new dog.
It's a new dog. Yeah. Okay. So, since we remember so much, we'll simply continue. So Krishna is in this very difficult position of being enwrapped in the coils of the snake Kaliya. And Kaliya is trying to crush him in the water. And Krishna was with some cows. Śrīmad Jiva Goswami says these cows were young cows who were nearing the time to give birth. And Śrīmad Jiva Goswami describes that when the cows saw Krishna enwrapped in the coils of the snake, they immediately, from every direction, they went running. They went running to the lake. And the cowherd boys, seeing the cows running, began to follow them and saw Krishna's position. And when they saw Krishna, it's so interesting. Listen to what the Bhagavatam says. When the members of the cowherd community, there were the boys, and then there were some senior elder cowherd men who were nearby too, doing agricultural work. So when they saw Krishna, who they had accepted as their dearmost friend, they saw him enveloped in the snake's coils, and he was motionless, adrishta chesta. He was motionless, not moving. They could not tell whether he was dead or alive. Their minds were completely disturbed because they had offered Krishna everything. They had offered him their very selves, their families, their wealth. Krishna arpitam surirartha kalatra kama. They had offered Krishna their families. All their desires were reposed in Krishna. That means they had no other desire than to please him. Dukkana shoka. They felt misery. They lamented. And bhaya. They felt fear. And then mudha diya napetu. They fell to the ground. The example given by our acharyas. They fell to the ground like a tree cut at the root. When a tree is cut at the root, it just falls down. There was no sense of I better protect myself and have to go like this or like that. They just fell down to the ground, seeing Krishna in that condition. They could not say anything. They were stunned. They were dumb. They had fainted. And the cows, the bulls, who were also there, and the female calves, Gavo, Vrisha, Vatsar, Taya, calves, bulls, cows, who Krishna was tending, Kranjamana, Susupdupita. They also felt incredible misery, great distress. Krishna yas tekshana bhita, in great fear. They fixed their eyes on him. But the Bhagavatam says, they called out, they stood still, they were crying with tears in their eyes. And they were calling out like with human-like sounds, calling out to Krishna. And the humans became stunned and could not speak, as if they were animals. And the cows began calling out to Krishna, because Krishna is all attractive. Look at the difference between Kaliya seeing Krishna, and the boys and the cows and the cowherd men seeing Krishna. They were too shocked. Rudyantiva, the Sanskrit is. They did not cry, but it was as if they were crying, because their eyes were too dried up out of fear for Krishna's safety to actually cry tears, as if they were crying. They were too shocked to shed tears. And then, so the cows were standing, stunned, crying, calling out. The cowherd boys and cowherd men had fallen to the ground. And suddenly, great omens of ill foreboding, portending disaster, started manifesting in Vrindavan. Manifesting in the sky and the earth and the bodies of men. In the sky, suddenly, meteors began to shoot through the sky. The earth began to shake and quake. And the bodies of the men began to twitch violently on the left side and the ladies on the right side. Inauspiciousness. The devatas, the demigods, had done this. The devatas, the demigods, they knew of Krishna's power, but yet they wanted to call the Brijbasis to come, because they had all stayed home for the festival to celebrate Balaram's birth. The Rohini Nakshatra, not Rohini, another Nakshatra. So the devatas, sympathizing for them, and in their mood began to manifest these ill omens. And then, as soon as these ill omens manifest, immediately, especially Yashoda Maya, she began to fear something has happened to Krishna. What has happened to Krishna? And in the middle of the ceremony, the auspicious ceremony, she went to Nanda Maharaj and said, "We can't complete this now. We have to find Krishna. How can we stand here and celebrate when terrible things may have happened to Krishna? Look, meteors, trembling of the earth." So the Brijbasis stopped what they were doing. They left the cooking. They left the yogurt. They left the sweets that they were offering. They left everything. And they began running to where Krishna was. They began running as if they were animals. They would run and stumble and trip and fall. Where's Krishna? Where is Krishna? Where is he gone? They'd go through bushes with stickers. But how did they know where Krishna had gone? They followed his footprints. Now, we need that slide right now of Krishna's footprints. Yes. Now, just everyone look at Krishna's footprints. In Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he mentions in a commentary on, I think in the 32nd chapter of the 10th canto, when the gopis are looking for Krishna's footprints, he describes the meaning, quoting the Skanda Purana, the meaning of the different signs on Krishna's footprints. And they're wonderful for meditation. At the base of the big right toe is a chakra for cutting down the 6 enemies of the devotee. So that's what that signifies. And by meditating on that chakra, what are the 6 enemies? Illusion and Matsarya, envy. At the base of the big right toe is a chakra. At the base of the middle toe is a lotus to attract the bees of the meditator's mind, because the lotus is fragrant. Now we can... So the chakra, and then the lotus. The lotus is to what? Attract the bee of the devotee's mind. Because if the mind is wandering everywhere, then the meditation is not very powerful. At the base of the little toe, is the thunderbolt. Whoops. Maybe it's... Anyway, it's not there.
But it's good.
Okay, yeah? Okay.
Is that a goat?
Yes. It's, an ankush, which controls the elephant of the mind of the devotee. But the thunderbolt on the base of the little toe, which destroys the mountain of sins of a devotee. On the crease of the big toe, creases of the big toe are barley grains, indicating the enjoyment of wealth. On the side, a thunderbolt, and before that an ankush. And this ankush means the goad for controlling an elephant. In the Skanda Purana, Krishna's right foot is described with the ankush at the base of the little toe, and below that the thunderbolt. In addition to the chakra, flag, lotus, thunderbolt, ankush, and barley grain, other signs are described in Srila Jiva Goswami's Vaishnava Toshini. Below the chakra, there is a patra, an umbrella. Below the prominent lines are 4 swastikas in 4 directions, and then 4 jumbo fruits, and in the center swastika is an 8-pointed figure. There are 11 distinct signs. On the left foot, from the base of the big toe, there's a conch shell, and the conch shell's purpose is to reveal knowledge. At the base of the middle toe, there are 2 circles. Below that, a bow without a string, and a calf's hoof print, and the bottom, a triangle surrounded by 4 water pots. Below that, a half moon touched by 2 more triangles. Below that, a fish. So with the 8 on one foot and the 11 on the other foot, there's a total of 19 different marks. So the Brijvasis, in their anxiety, were looking in the soft dust of Vrindavan for the footprints of Krishna. And the footprints of Krishna were respected completely throughout Braj. And no one would disturb those footprints. The animals would not walk on them. And even the wind did not have the power to disturb the footprints of Krishna. So the Brijvasis, running madly through the land of Vrindavan, pushing bushes out of the way, looking for those footprints of Krishna, stumbling, getting up, wandering madly, following those footprints until they reached the Yamuna. And from a distance, they saw Krishna enwrapped in the coils of the snake Kaliya. And they went mad and began rushing to the water, all ready to immediately to jump in, somehow to save Krishna. But they saw on the ground the boys who had come to consciousness. Nanda Maharaj asked them, "What has happened? How has this happened? Has someone induced Krishna to enter this river? Has the snake put out its tentacles and grabbed Krishna from the shore? Tell us what had happened." And the boys who had regained their consciousness, they could not say a word. And the cows were simply crying. Now the Bhagavatam is going to describe 1, 2, 3. We need the next verse. So the first persons who were described by how they reacted, described by Srila Sukadeva Goswami, are the young Rajagopikas whose minds had been completely captivated by Krishna. This is called, at this stage of their relationship, there hadn't been any meeting, but it is called in Sanskrit Purvara, before meeting. In the 15th chapter there was a description of when Krishna was returning home from the forest, that there was an exchange of glances. But at this point, at this point, they hadn't spoken or anything like that. 16:10. Go to the next one, please. Go ahead. Yeah. Gopyo Anurakta. Manaso Bhagavati Ananta. Because the gopis, these young gopis, had Anurakta Manaso, they had complete attachment to Krishna. Their minds knew nothing else but thoughts of Krishna, who was Bhagavati Anante, the unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the qualification for being in Vrindavan. That somehow or another one has to gain this attachment to Krishna, attraction to Krishna. What were they attracted to? Sorida Smita Velokagira Swarantya. They were remembering always with great affection his smile, his glances, his words, because they had listened to him, they had seen him. And then seeing him, the Priyatama, the dearest, seeing him graste ahina, within the clutches of that snake. Vrisha means very great, dukkha tapta. They began to experience the greatest distress. Tapta means heat. Distress caused by their transcendental attachment to Krishna, because of their minds being completely attached to him. And that resulted in Sunyam Priya Vyahiritam Dadrus Trilokam. That the whole world, they felt that the entire world had no meaning. The entire world was shunya, Trilokam, the three worlds, existed, had no purpose. When a disaster hits us, or we fear a disaster will hit us, suddenly we look at our life, we look at something that appealed to us before, and suddenly sunya, no value. What is the meaning of it all? It's all useless. It's empty. So they experienced the whole world as completely empty. Why? Because they saw Krishna enwrapped in the coils of the snake. That's how it affected them. Seeing Krishna in difficulty, the world has no meaning for me. I'm empty now. What is life? There is one description in Vrindavan Chapu of Srimati Radharani at this time that is by Krishna's kind arrangement. I don't have it with me, but it's so touching that the only way that she could stay alive. See, when we think of, I want to be with Krishna, I want to go back home, back to Godhead, etc. like that, we tend to think, well, there it'll be peaceful, I won't have to go to work, I won't have that four-letter word called the boss, and I won't have to do this, and it'll be free. Basically, we consider liberation, tend to consider liberation as the most desirable, the absence of suffering, the absence of difficulty. But Srimati Radharani was the emblem, the highest emblem of love for Krishna. Look what, there's an experience of nothing has any meaning without Krishna. Life is ashes. So Srila Kavi Kanapur in Ananda Vrindavan Temple describes how the gopis could keep Srimati Radharani alive. She had barely some breath left in her, seeing Krishna in this difficulty. To keep her alive, they told her, look, Krishna's here, he's coming, he's right here, right now. And then she would vaguely open her eyes. But Krishna wasn't there. She'd fall down. But in this way, they kept her alive. And the next verse, we'll read this, read the English. Go back. When the young gopis, whose minds were constantly attached to Krishna, the unlimited Supreme Lord, saw that he was now within the grips of the serpent, they remembered his loving friendship, his smiling glances, and his talks with them. Burning with great sorrow, they saw the entire universe as void. So Mahaprabhu took this mood, Sunyayate Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me. That missing Krishna, this is actually the process that Mahaprabhu taught. Of course, this is on a most high level. But he taught the process of actually missing Krishna, wanting to be with Krishna, and experiencing that, not to be imitated, certainly, but developing love for Krishna is born out of desiring to be with Krishna. And that is born out of knowing I'm not with Krishna. Okay, go on. So now the Krishna Mataram. This means, who is Krishna's Mataram? Mother Yasoda, Krishna's mother, and all the other ladies. Immediately, Anupravishtam, Tulya Vyata Samagriya. They were all equal in love to Mother Yashoda. They all love Krishna completely, equal, Tulya. And they wanted to immediately enter the water. What could they do? He was in the grips of the snake. What could these ladies do? But they didn't care what they could do in a practical sense. They just could not tolerate seeing Krishna in that difficult situation. So in these verses, even though they are on the highest level, the highest level, still there are hints in there for us to develop some kind of attachment to Krishna, and how to do that. You know how it describes in the commentaries of the Acharyas, not here but in other places, that the ladies who are not yet perfect, who take their birth in Bhumi Vrindavan, who are not yet perfect, who have this mood of serving in motherly love by association with Mother Yashoda, their mood is brought to perfection, their love is brought to the summit. And here, Sucha Shravana, Tasta Vraja Priya Kata, they just kept on, they took turns just reciting Vraja Priya Kata. They took turns speaking about Krishna, Krishna Kata, to Mother Yashoda, to each other, and in this way, the life remained in their body. Krishnanane arpita drisho mitaka pritaka pratika. And they were just staring at Krishna. They were offering. It's expressed in such a beautiful way. Because sometimes, I think that when I think of service, doing some service, I think of always something very, very active. And I have to keep moving and do this, and of course, that's there. But then, when it comes to hearing about Krishna, or chanting Krishna's names, or looking at the deities, there's such a tendency not to think of that as service. What's the service? What am I doing for Krishna's pleasure? But here, the word that is used in text 21, Arpito Drisha, Krishna Anane Arpito Drisha. They were looking at Krishna, Anane. They were looking at Krishna, and Arpita Drisha. Arpita means they were offering to Krishna. Not Arpitam, they were offering to Krishna their eyes by looking at him. So the translation is just their eyes fixed upon his face. But the Sanskrit has this element of sweetness in it. They were offering Krishna their eyes. Hearing about Krishna is offering Krishna the process of hearing, the ears. Looking at Krishna is offering Krishna the eyes. Thinking about Krishna is offering Krishna the mind. It's such a nice, what's the word? Not nice. What's something a little bit nicer than nice?
Lovely.
It's lovely. Yes, another word. If we were all younger, we would say it's awesome. If someone said awesome, okay, well, I'm not young enough to say it, so I won't. Awesome, yeah? Cool. Yeah. People nowadays, they say cool, as if they just invented the word. Don't they know that we invented the word 50 years ago? I can't remember who we stole it from, but the beatniks, I think.
They say sick now. Sick.
Sick. Oh, it's really sick. Yeah. And bad is good. Yeah. And sick is healthy. It's confusing, isn't it? Okay. Because this world is a reflection of the spiritual world. So what's good is bad. Bad is good. And sickest. Anyway, I'm already getting confused. So, and as they were looking at Krishna, they were offering Krishna their eyes, and their eyes were like when we offer flowers to the deities, to Prabhupada. Krishna has enough flowers, everything belongs to him. But the flower it holds the intent, it's a gesture of the internal. So while they were looking at Krishna, tears, Ritaka Pratika, tears were flooding from their eyes. Tears were coming from their eyes. And the next verse. Full absorption. And again, we spoke about this at the beginning. There was no question of them having to think, oh, my mind is wandering now, and it's probably better that I don't think about other things. I should really think about Krishna. There's no question about that. There was nothing external needed to help them focus their minds on Krishna. Everything was spontaneous. Everything was natural. And there's one verse that I'll mention a little bit later that describes what it takes to have this kind of focus. And again, it can't be imitated. And it can't be done just with one's will or determination or one's intelligence. I can't say, as I mentioned this before, that from now on, how many times have I said from now on, when I'm chanting my japa, I'm going to do this, or from now on I'm only going to do this. It just doesn't work. It doesn't come from the intelligence, it doesn't come from the strength of the mind or even one's wisdom. It comes naturally and spontaneously from love for Krishna. And that, as Prabhupada said, we don't imitate, we become humble, and we take to the process of developing. But there are hints in here. As we hear about the perfection, there are hints about the process as well. Next verse. Here, okay. Krishna pranam nirvishito nandadim vikshatam vidam. So this one is about the cowherd men. We heard about the young girls, the elderly gopis, and then the men. Headed by Nandadim, headed by Nanda Maharaj, seeing Viksha, seeing Krishna in that lake. Seeing Krishna in that lake. Krishna Pranam, these people who Krishna was their life. Now, I thought about this. That it's such an interesting saying that Krishna was their life force. Now, what does that mean? It's easy to understand that means that he was everything for them. But when we look at the example of the cowherd boys, we see Krishna was their life, and when Krishna was in difficulty, that means that their life, practically speaking, had left their bodies, and therefore they fell to the ground like trees. Trees? What's the rest? What? Trees? Cut at the root. They just fell over. It was their life had left their bodies. They could not move. Do you still want to go Goloka Vrindavan? But this platform is spontaneous, continuous ecstasy. If we take our material minds, and try to understand what it's like there for someone to be exhibiting these symptoms, we will never be able to enter. never be able to understand. So Nanda Maharaj, seeing Krishna in this way, they immediately were going to enter. They were immediately the coward men, because there's the feeling of protector. I am the father, I am the protector of this boy. Look at him, look at his situation. I have to protect him. But then, Bhagavan Rama, Balaram, Krishna Bhava means that he knew the power of his brother. So he just smiled. He stopped them. The smiling was actually in a different verse. He smiled. And he stopped them. Our acharyas describe he stopped them in 3 ways. He stopped them with his words. He stopped them by, no, don't go in. And he stopped them by his smile. By his smiling, he was saying to them, I love Krishna. I love Krishna as much as anyone. And I'm not worried because Krishna no Bhavavid. I know the power. There's nothing. Krishna fighting with this little serpent of this world? What is there to worry about? This is how he argued with them and stopped them from going in. Krishna has defeated Putana when he was a young boy, Shakatashura, Trinavarta. You think he's going to have any difficulties with a serpent of this world? And Gaga Muni has already told you that he is going to protect you from all difficulty. So the one who's going to protect you from difficulty, how can you protect him? He's going to walk out very soon, in a moment or two. He's going to walk out of the lake. And then if you enter the lake and touch those poisonous waters, and he walks out, who's going to take care of him? Who's going to take care of him? So using his smile, using these type of arguments and words, and stopping them, physically, practically speaking, Balaram forbade the elders to enter. Okay, next verse. But then, when Krishna saw Swagokulam, what does Swami, his own people of Gokul, who Ananyagatim Nariksha, he saw Nariksha that his own people, who had no other gati, who had no other shelter other than him, that they were suffering so much. Dukhitam, Atmaheto. Atmaheto means, and he was the cause of that suffering. Now, then he's going to free himself. But look at some of these words here. He called them, Krishna was thinking, Swa Gokulam. These are my people of Gokul. These are mine. And this, having Krishna think of us as his own, bringing us within the circle of those he considers his own, is the perfection of a soul's existence. And understanding how to get Krishna to think of us in this way is easy to understand, because Ananyagatim Nariksha, or Nandigatim, they had no one else but him. They thought of Krishna as their own. In other words, they had surrendered to him, they had given themselves to him. Gotrate varanam tata. And just by that simple act, and this is also described in more detail by Srila Jiva Goswami in Sri Bhakti Sandhara, that by them giving themselves in Sharanagati, in surrender, by them thinking of themselves as Krishnas, then Krishna naturally thinks of them as his own. So when we're thinking how to get within the circle of those who Krishna considers his own, what can we get to induce Krishna to include us in that way? All we have to do is take that step to Krishna by thinking of Krishna as our own. As Krishna, you are mine, and I am yours. And this is the devotee. And in Vrindavan, the mood is more mamata, that you are mine. But that's, again, very, very, very high. But to think that I am yours, how can I serve you? What can I do to please you? How can I get myself out of the center? How can I please you, Krishna? This is how Srila Prabhupada he gave it. There's so many different translations of the meaning of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But the first one, there's so many very, very, very intimate ones, very intimate translations by so many acharyas. But this very, very simple one that Prabhupada gave us, right in the very beginning, in perhaps 1966, is that please accept me as your servant. Please accept me. O Lord, O energy of the Lord, O Krishna, how can I serve you? Please accept me as your servant. How can I serve you? That moving ourselves from the center, the attempt even to move ourselves from the center and put Krishna in the center is such a rare and exalted state of mind, to put Krishna in the center. The attempt to put Krishna in the center. How can I serve you? For so many minutes, for so many hours, for so many months, for so many years, for so many decades, for so many lives, I've tried to be happy with myself in the center. And I can honestly say it hasn't worked. So now, Krishna, please accept me as your servant. And that's what we mentioned before, that this is really a gift of Krishna if you have some service. If he gives you service, it's a gift. And I found at different times of my life, sometimes I had services that I didn't like very much and were very difficult. But it was a gift. A gift that I very often took for granted. And didn't understand what a gift it was. Something that Prabhupada wanted that I could do that would really please him. It's a great gift. And I learned not to take it for granted, because gifts don't always come. When they're there, we think, oh, anyway, it's just a gift. I can always this or that or this or that. So service is a gift, an opportunity to serve, but not just the externals. We want to do it with the right mood too. The right mood means that may you be pleased by this. And Prabhupada, so many classes he said this. And it doesn't have to be big service, it can be either you're worshipping the deities or cleaning the temple room. Same, Prabhupada would say. Just offer it, do it in a mood. And if the mood is right, then the carefulness, then it will be done in the right mood when there's some devotion. Then it will be done in a painstaking and careful way. So Krishna, the residents of Vrindavan, they considered Krishna everything for them, and he considered him his own. And when he saw that they were suffering on his account, when he understood that, then he immediately expanded himself. And although Kaliya was so powerful, Krishna is all powerful. And Kaliya, as much as he tried to contain Krishna, he couldn't. It was too painful. And Krishna, Udattishtad Urangabandha, he broke free from the confinements of the snake. And how long was he in there? It says, Stitva Muhurtam. He was held in there. The snake held him for one muhurta. A muhurta is 1/30th. You know that? It's 1/30th of a day. A titi. It's 1/30th, and it comes to approximately 48 minutes. So Krishna was held, Srila Sanatana Goswami describes, because in the next verse, when Krishna broke free from Kaliya, Kaliya became very angry. And Srila Sanatana Goswami gives a completely different explanation, because he's thinking that how can anyone be in Vrindavan unless they're the greatest devotees? So why did Kaliya get angry? Or why did Krishna stay? Because he could do this at any time. He could break free. Why did he wait for one muhurta, 48 minutes to pass before breaking free? Why did he wait for the residents of Vrindavan to be falling down on the ground and going mad, seeing him? Why did he do this? So Srila Sanatana Goswami says, he takes Kaliya's mood as a deep devotional mood. So he said that what Kaliya was embracing Krishna, and Sanatana Goswami said he stayed in his embrace for 48 minutes, because when someone is embracing you, it's impolite to immediately break free. And other acharyas say that Krishna was waiting. First of all, there's so many different reasons. Another one was that he wanted to show, okay, Kaliya, you've shown your power now I will show you mine. And another reason was, and this one is I just saw this one, and I found it very sweet, considering what's going to happen next. That Krishna is very playful, and he wanted to chastise Kaliya, and he wanted to dance upon his heads. But what's the use of dancing if there's not an appreciative audience? So he was waiting for all the Brijbasis to come. And as soon as they came, he was ready, and that's what's going to happen in a few moments. Because this is all different exchanges. To understand Krishna's pastimes, we have to see that these are the deepest exchanges between the beloved and the loved. Just exchanges, going back and forth of increasing varieties spiritual emotions and rasa, ecstasies. It's like an ocean. It's not static. It's not with nothing going on. But that's why Srila Rupa Goswami called it Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's an ocean with waves, and there's small waves and big waves. And the two small ones, Baba Sandhi, they combine. And then they make a crest like this, and then something moves along. And then suddenly something like this is happening. There's always these different movements in the waters of the ocean of ecstasy between Krishna and the devotees. And then a huge wave comes along, like Kaliya grabs Krishna. Now what do you do next after this type of experience? So Krishna is going to do something very wonderful. Okay, we'll go to this. Because Krishna, he's the master of the unexpected. Okay, want to go back. We're not quite ready for this one. Oh, that's the giveaway. Okay, keep this one on. Krishna first, he breaks himself free. And then, you have to, just for a second, we'll let you go back there in a second, but he started moving around. He started moving towards Kaliya. And then Kaliya naturally was very angry and looking to bite him. So he started moving towards Krishna. And then Krishna quickly moved around to this side. And then Kaliya moved to this side to try to catch Krishna. And Krishna went to that side. And Kaliya went this way and Krishna went that way. And they were circling around and around. And during this time, Kaliya, who was underwater most of the time, most of his tremendous body with its 1,000 hoods, 100 and or so were prominent, Kaliya started, his full form came out. And it was huge, and it was menacing. And he was looking to bite Krishna. And Krishna was moving around and circling and circling and circling him. And all the Brajvasis were just watching this going on. Now their anxiety at this time had shifted. Before, they saw him caught. But now, he broke himself free, and that was wonderful. But now what's going to happen? And Kaliya is trying to bite him and capture him again. And then Krishna, with his left hand, he found a base of the root of Kaliya, and he pushed the head down, and then he jumped up upon the flat head of Kaliya, and he started to dance. Now, that's why Maharaj Pariksit in the beginning, he asked the question. He wasn't satisfied just simply knowing that Kaliya was going to be driven out of the lake by Krishna. He wanted to know how, because Krishna, he performs a bhutta karmanam. Everything he does is done with such wondrous and such unique style. And Krishna accomplishes so many things with one act. So he wanted to chastise Kaliya and drive him away, but he also wanted to dance, just demonstrating his expertise in dancing. Now it's times like this, I wish I knew some Bharatanatyam. Jump on the table and dance. Bart, you can do it for us?
My sister was on
Your sister. Okay, but you don't know it. Okay. But he started to dance from one hood to the next. And he is the most expert dancer. And just to give us a little idea of what dancing means, the kind of graceful dancing and jumping from one hood to the next, I put together a little video, not of Krishna dancing, but of some expert dancers in I think it is in Tamil Nadu actually, and just a short video, under 4 minutes even. But this one dancer, his name was Ajita Das. I thought It reminded me of the kind of dancing I would think that Krishna could do. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that there's a... Is anyone here from Andhra? Okay. You know what is Kuchipudi dancing? So of course that's spoken with a Brooklyn accent. But it's the Andhra style dancing. And one of the parts of their dancing they do is they dance on plates, brass plates. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna was seeing the plate, the head of Kaliya, like a brass plate. In other words, he wanted to show his expertise in the dancing. So he started dancing on that. So there's two little exhibitions in here of the dancing on the plates. Okay. You have to watch the sound on this one. Will that give sound? Okay, this is a little bit of sound. But just imagine there's this big snake there. Of course we can't really imagine it, but there's this huge snake, and Krishna's jumped on it after being captured, and then he starts doing this with the expertise times 1,000 or 1,000,000 or unlimited. Do you see it? You can't wait with so much expectation. But there's supposed to be sound. Because Krishna's... Watch his heels. Because Krishna, when he's dancing, he's smashing. Doesn't seem to be any sound, does it? When he's dancing, start from the beginning. Because Krishna's also... He's started from the very beginning. And he's making these kind of dancing, he's accompanying himself and making these da-dan, 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 and he's kicking them with his heels while he's doing it. So he's chastising him and delicately displaying the fine arts of dancing and chastising Kaliya. And at the same time, he's making eyes at the gopis, letting them know that he's very expert in dancing, and soon he's going to dance with them. And he's kicking them with his heels continuously. And he's dancing, and the Brishvasis are going mad with their happiness. And Krishna's dancing on the hoods of the snake while this is going on. And making these sounds. Watch the heels. Kicking them. And Krishna's got the force of the universe in his heels. He's just smashing one head of Kaliyas after the next. There's one. And the strength of the heels has to be moving that whole thing around. So, and this is one, to give us an idea, we can't have an idea of what, because Krishna, he's called Adi Guru of all fine arts. So he's the one someone has a drop of his ocean of expertise. So he's dancing on Kaliya. So Kaliya's angry and trying to bite him. And he's got 1,000 heads, and 100 are prominent. And each time one of his heads comes up, or they're called shoulders even, with the hoods over here, Krishna would jump up on and dance it, and dance on and kick it, and kick it, and kick it, and kick it until it would go down, and then another head would come up, and Krishna would jump on that, boom, 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 da-da, 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 da-da. Are you sure you can't dance? Stand up here. And then another one would come up, and another one, this one would get kicked down, and then this one would get kicked down, and this one would be broken, until there were no more left to fight with Krishna. And in the beginning, Kaliya's eyes were like firebrands. He was so angry. They were like burning embers of wood. And his nostrils were compared to 2 pots for cooking poison that was smoking. And he was so full of anger. And then one by one, and he couldn't accept it. Krishna would dance on it. And again, the beauty of this, or a beautiful aspect of it, is that he's chastising Kaliya, he's demonstrating his dancing, he's glancing at the gopis, he's relieving the anxiety of the residents of Vrindavan, and he's teaching Kaliya something. And he's limiting the amount of weight that his body is thumping Kaliya with again and again, da-da, da-da. And the devatas, the demigods, are so astounded by this demonstration. The great dancers won't dance with him, because when the master is dancing, no one dances along with them. They stand like this. They don't start talking and showing off their skills and what they know. They just stand there. But to accompany Krishna where there was no music, they started playing instruments, and they started throwing flowers and throwing perfumed powders on this. So suddenly, this disastrous scene of Krishna being enwrapped in the coils of the snake, and the Brajbasis were almost at death, suddenly it turns into this great festival and dancing exhibition with colors and throwing flowers and powders and everything like that. So this is what Prabhu wanted to hear about how Krishna is going to chastise him and push him out. And when we understand how Krishna is so expert at dancing, and how he loves to put a dance in the middle of everything, then we finally understand Bollywood movies, that they're a reflection. There always has to be a dance in them. And look at the rasa dance, right in the middle of the 10th canto. Krishna starts dancing with everyone, and the gopis and everything like that. But the reflection isn't as good and tasty as the original. So Kaliya, from going with the burning eyes, he starts losing his life by the power. Bam, da-da, da-da, da-da. Krishna kicking, forcefully kicking one head after the next, kicking, thumping, pounding, until Kaliya was almost unconscious. And this reminds me so much of how to say it, the reluctance of some people to surrender to Krishna, that one head comes up, and then Krishna, and I try to make myself so appears so great and wonderful, and Krishna pounds that, but then I don't get the point. And then another part of my false ego may come up, and I'll show him who I am, and then he jumps on that and pounds that, and then another one and pounds that until, oh, I've had enough. I've had enough. Pinching was one thing, but getting kicked and pounded on my heads is another. And then what Kaliya did, the seed that he had of devotion, due to his association with his devotee wives. First of all, look what he had to go through. The serpent profusely vomiting blood from his mouth. He finally recognized Sri Krishna to be the eternal personality of Godhead, that he had more than met his match, and that it was time for him to surrender. The Master, the Supreme Master of all moving and non-moving beings, he recognized that Krishna was Sri Narayan, he was the Supreme Lord. Thus, Narayanam Tvam Aranam Manasa Jagama. Thus, he was so weak, he was so beaten, he was so destroyed that he couldn't even say the words. But in his mind, Tam, Aranam, Manasa, he surrendered. He approached Krishna in his mind even and surrendered to him. And he was too weak to say, I am yours, Krishna. I am yours, I am yours. The fight is over. The struggle with the material energy is over now, Krishna. I accept whatever, forgive me, but I am yours. How can I serve you? I'm out of the center, finally. But look what it takes sometimes. I think every soul, even say someone is very advanced and they move so quickly to this point, but at some point in the conditioned stage, one has to go through this. Because we're here with false ego, which means Krishna Bhule Se Jeev and Adya Bahimukh, means we have, oh, Hare Krishna. I'm turning my back on everyone else, I'm facing you, and Hare Krishna. You okay? I haven't seen you before today. You okay? But it's not nice when someone turns their back on you, is it? Just to show you what I mean. Can you do it? So we turn our back on Krishna. And the surrendering process basically is just a process of turning towards Krishna, turning towards the relationship with Krishna that we already have, but facing it instead of facing away from it. So Kaliya underwent his process, and that's I see that in my life at this point. Seeing that the art of living, the art of surfing through the waves of this material world is the art of riding that wave to Krishna. So sometimes the waves are very, very heavy. But somehow, if we can use the energy of that to let them push us towards Krishna, and I see the very nature of the mind, and this is why I can speak with conviction that there's more than forgetting Krishna. There's a conscious turning our back to Krishna. There's some enmity with Krishna in the heart of every conditioned soul. I can say this because I see that the mind has such resistance, especially during difficult times, to turn to Krishna. There's a resistance there that's more than just neutrality. There is a resistance. I don't want to turn to Krishna. I don't want to turn to Him. So we have to overcome that. That means becoming humble. Sometimes it means getting danced on. It You're laughing now. That's because you're young. But if you can laugh your way through it and say, okay, Krishna, you're a fortunate soul. I am yours, I am yours, I am yours. So, at this point we shall end. This is a happier ending, better situation than before lunch. And tomorrow we will hear the prayers of the Nagapati. Now Krishna is still dancing on the heads of Kaliya and thumping him. And but then the next stage of the pastime begins. So we'll stop here. Oh my God, we're on time.
6 o'clock sharp.
6 o'clock sharp. Yeah. I meant to end actually at 5:30. So not exactly, because I wanted some time for questions and answers. But tomorrow, Kali. Okay? You'll be here tomorrow or you're busy?
I'll be here.
Okay, good. Okay. You're too busy. Maybe, we'll see, okay. Okay, Hare Krishna, so there's a break between now and 6:30 and then Govardhan Lila will begin. These are the two pastimes that bring all the devotees together. So, we'll see you soon and be on time please. Hare Krishna.